As part of this particular section, and actually obviously at the beginning of this section, I want to review a couple of major configuration modes with you. I know that you've seen a couple of these. There's some labs we've done already. You're going to see a lot more of them, but I want to review them with you all in one place and also give you an exam tip that I think will really come in handy for you on practice exams and the real thing. Now we know to put commands into action on a Cisco router, we've got to go into some configuration mode. We've seen a couple of these, but again, I want to see them all in one place. And of course, the configuration mode we need to go into depends on what command we want to run. This is one of the things that when you're reading about it, it seems tricky because you're trying to memorize these modes or you're seeing them for the first time. And then when you're actually doing them, it becomes second nature. So hang in there if this is a little clumsy or you haven't done any hands-on practice yet, because again, then you're just kind of trying to memorize them, but when you actually get to use them, it does make it a lot easier. Let's go ahead and bring the live equipment up, and I'm already in privilege exec mode or enable mode, but if I try to do something even fundamental as, say, changing the host name here, let's see what happens. Let's say I'm going to change it to R3. We get the caret that tells me where I went wrong with this particular command. And when you go wrong that close to the front and you know the command is legal, it's really easy to look at that and say, what do you mean, illegal command or invalid input? I know what this command is. It still happens to me every once in a while when I'm really into a lab and you're just in the wrong config mode. Anytime you see a caret that close to the beginning of your command, you're probably in the wrong config mode. So we've got a couple options here, but the one we almost always use, and the only one we really need to concern ourselves with here, is configure terminal. And usually that is going to be abbreviated conft. You even see it that way in Cisco documentation. But it gives you the little message about entering the configuration commands one per line. And we put in host name R3, and it takes effect immediately. That's one thing about global configuration mode. Again, global configuration mode, whatever you're configuring, it's going to affect the entire router, and it's going to take place immediately. Now, another section, a couple of sections here I have for you on the board too, and we'll be configuring these live, but I want to show you these on the board as well. We've gone through a couple of line configuration modes, both for the console port and for the VTY lines. Note that you have to be in global config mode to get to line config mode. You can't go straight there. So again, if I try to put in line VTY04 at the enable prompt, it's going to tell me invalid input. And again, note where the caret is. I know I keep coming back to that, but that's a very important troubleshooting tool in your troubleshooting your own commands. If it's near the end of the command, you probably just have an option wrong because it's saying you were doing fine until you get to this point. But if it's telling you you were doing fine until this point and it's the second character, then you know the problem most likely is you're just in the wrong config mode. And here when I went to line config mode from global configuration mode, line VTY04, you'll notice config line and you're fine. Now to configure an interface, you guessed it and you've seen it, interface configuration mode. And again, we have to be in global config mode first. You know what I'm going to say here. When you see the caret that close to the front of the line, what does it mean? You're probably in the wrong config mode. And we simply were not in global mode to get there. Once we went into global configuration mode, then you go into interface mode and it's fine. Again, when you're reading this, if you're seeing this for the first time, when you're reading it the first time or even seeing a demo, it seems tricky. It's like, oh, I got to memorize all these paths. Once you're actually doing it though, whether it's live equipment, rented equipment, simulator, doesn't matter. It does become second nature. Now, watch the prompts on exam day questions. And this goes for your practice exam questions too, because they're a tip-off as to which configuration mode a router or switch readout is in. Let's say that you had a Cisco command called pickle, and the correct answer to the question that they are asking is pickle. But you see it 3 times in the choices. Well, I would look out for the config modes, because I've written practice exam questions like that, and I've taken practice exam questions where I've looked at it and you immediately say, well, wait a minute, they've got the same answer here twice. Well, these are not the same answer 3 times. These are 3 different answers because one is in config mode, One is in config interface mode, and the other is in config line mode. Just something to watch out for when you're prepping for exam success. There are a couple of ways to get back to the enable prompt. One is Control-Z, which is the one I almost always use, or you can type exit if you just want to go back one config mode. And you'll notice here on the board I did a Control-Z, and you're going to see the little upraised caret and the Z takes you right back to the enable prompt. And typing exit just takes you back one config mode. There's no right or wrong choice here. There's no huge preference one way or the other. But I would keep in mind that exit does take you back one mode, and Control-Z just takes you back to the enable prompt immediately. It's a lot of really personal preference. Again, just one more word to the wise. Don't let these keystrokes throw you. I'm going to show you some others as far as some shortcuts later. It takes time to get comfortable with them, but if you got a home lab to work on, or if you have some kind of simulator, I'm not crazy about all of those programs, but they all let you practice these particular commands, and they do become second nature very quickly. Just watch it when you're taking a written exam or a computer-based exam. That is the end of our config mode review, and next up we're going to take a look at some router and switch basic configurations and configure a ton of passwords. So I'll see you on the next video.